Hi, Caroline Sadie here. I've decided to do a video clip on the very controversial subject of the MMR. And I know that there is a lot of concern about this for parents who have children with autism, and also those that have children without autism, worried that their child may get autism by having the MMR. Well, let me just give you some information so that you can have a better informed choice and you can make your own decision about it. And so let's start with what the media says. So, for example, the media says that there's no evidence that the MMR causes autism, but it's important to know that that evidence is research called epidemiological research, which comes from data and comes from looking back at records and things like that. And in the research environment, the way that we are expected to prove whether something is evidential or not, or is going to be true or not, if you like, is by repeating research that has been done before. So, for example, we all know that the research evidence that originally started this, let's call it conflict, was that of Andrew Wakefield's, which was biological research, was shown to have measles virus in the gut, and he recommended that further research be done to see if this was the case. Now, I'm not going to go into the wheres and wherefores about his research, but if you look on my website, I have put the links to the two different books, one written by Andrew Wakefield and one by Paul Offit, which I encourage you to read if you're really serious about making your own mind up and finding your own conclusion as to what you feel and want to do about it. And basically there is other research out there by other researchers who have done the biological research and found wild measles in the guts of some children with autism. Some children, not all children. And so that's the research side of things. So there is research to show, biological research to confirm some of the research that Andrew Wakefield did, and I know there's a lot around his research and the credibility of it. But if you read his book, you'll also see the other reasons that the GMC decided that his work wasn't credible. And you used to be able to get or see a copy of the original Lancet paper, which had been extracted from the journal, and it says on there, it doesn't say on there that Andrew Wakefield says that MMR causes autism. It says he recommends further research. So that's the research side of things. I'm not saying that the MMR causes autism. I'm not saying that it doesn't. I am just giving you the information that I've researched in the past. So that's what the media quotes. It quotes data and written records, information, and that can be disputed and is disputed by many other doctors and things who are against the MMR. So there are the two sides to that story. So the next thing is, what do we do about giving our children the MMR? Well, both my children had the MMR at 13 months. Farah had already had rubella when she was roughly 4 months old, I think it was. So she would have already hopefully had some immunity to rubella, which is German measles. And when I was doing the research for my degree, and even back then, I read that it was, if anything, out of the measles, mumps and rubella vaccine parts were going to be contributing to the autism, it was the measles. So when it came to her preschool booster, I refused. I felt she's already had it once. By that time she'd had her diagnosis, and we were well into interventions and therapies, and I wasn't willing to take the risk. So I didn't give her the booster before she went to school. And actually I didn't give it to my son either. He went to school before she did, and I asked my GP at that time to give him single vaccines, which he kind of misunderstood, because he thought I wanted him to give him 3 separate vaccines on the same day. So in the end, my son didn't have measles or the rubella booster at the age 5, but luckily for me, my wonderful brother-in-law, who is a private doctor, gave my son the single mumps vaccine, just to be on the safe side. So that was what happened with my children. And then later on, when my son was due to go to university, the universities require the students to have certain vaccines and things. And so I spoke to my brother-in-law about it, and he recommended to have a blood test done to see which diseases he was already immune to. And we decided to have this done for Farah as well at the same time. So both children had a blood test, and this was, what was it, Jordan would have been about 19 and Farah maybe 16 or 17. And it came back that Jordan was immune to measles, mumps and rubella, which would have been from his perhaps first vaccine, and the mumps booster. So he was fine. So I just got a letter to state that the immunity test had showed that he was immune and he didn't need another MMR. Farah's, however, came back, interestingly, that she was immune to rubella and to mumps, but she wasn't immune to measles. So at that time, she was much older and stronger than when she was at age 3 or 4, and her immune system is much back to, well, it's up to, it's just as good as yours or mine now. She very rarely goes down with colds or anything like that. So she, you know, I knew her immune system was fine, and I agreed for her to have one of the last single measles vaccines, which she had, and so hopefully now she's immune to measles. Having said all that, it's not definite that vaccines give you immunity. Hence the reason why, as I've just explained, Farah had an MMR at age 13 months, but she wasn't immune to measles. So vaccines don't give 100% guarantee that you're going to be immune to a disease. So that's that bit of information. So what do we do now that there are no single vaccines if you want to give your child a single vaccine? And you've got the MMR. Well, you've got the choice. You either don't give it and pray your child doesn't get measles, mumps or rubella, or if they do, they come through it without any side effects, or you go ahead with the MMR, and then you perhaps worry whether or not something might happen. So I recently discovered that there is a homeopathic remedy that you can give your child a couple of days before, during and after the vaccination, which is said to help reduce the risks of any side effects. And okay, some people don't believe in homeopathy, some people do, some call it rubbish, some call it a placebo, but whatever you believe about it, if it's not going to do any harm, it might do some good. So this has always been my motto, if you like. So this homeopathic remedy is called Thuja, and you can actually get it from a homeopath. It's good if you've got a homeopath you can speak to about your child's overall well-being. I actually use a very well qualified alternative pharmacist. Well, he's a pharmacist as well as being qualified in homeopathy and alternative medicines and things, and he will talk to you about that and be able to provide you with the homeopathic remedy. So that's something you can do if you are going to give your child the MMR. What else did I want to say about the MMR really? I could give you a lot more information about how the vaccines are cultivated, but I don't think that's really going to help you very much. I think that's about it, and if I think of anything else, I'll let you know. But basically, I would just have a think about it. Make sure your child is healthy. They're not constantly going down with colds or sniffles, which is what the NHS recommend anyway. So if you feel your child's immune system is not immune compromised, then you can choose to go ahead with it. And if you are concerned about that, then maybe wait until you feel that their immune system is much more stronger before giving the MMR. And talk to a homeopath, because quite often they can give you some alternatives, and also can help you with making decisions about maybe how to boost their immune system, as well as a nutritional therapist can also help you with that. As we know, nutrition can also be a very challenging thing for parents to implement with their children. But I would say, just get as much information as you can, and to help you make your decision, rather than just perhaps listening to one side or the other. And ultimately, my belief is that, if you choose not to vaccinate, then like my particular thoughts were, for example, when they wanted to give the children the meningitis C at school, at infant school, I totally refused. I found that the research hadn't even been properly done for a couple of months, and even that, I think it was a couple of weeks, and so I decided not to give the meningitis C to my children, and I just put my trust in God and thought, well, if they did contract it, then I would deal with that rather than give them the vaccine and deal with the side effects, having had the diagnosis for Farah by then. So this is just my opinions, and these are just my thoughts and what I've done, and I'm just sharing this with you so that you can look into things for yourself and make your own decisions about vaccines. My children have had vaccines. I've just said, you know, Farah had a single vaccine, but she was a lot stronger in her immune system, and she's older, and I'm not against vaccines. I'm just cautious and want to, obviously, like any mother, to make the right decision. And I think you have to make the right decision for you, and feel 100% comfortable within yourself that the decision you're making you are happy with, and you're happy with any consequences that come from that. So that's a bit of information about the MMR, and I hope it's been useful. I'll see you again. Bye.